pleasure to welcome all participants of our session of today. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Alexander Voronkov. I'm Regional Vice President of Rosatom International Network, and at the same time, Head of Regional Office of Rosatom for the same region. Today we have our last but not the least session of Rosatom Thematic Week, which has been conducted in the frame of Expo 2020 in Dubai, starting from 17th of January until today. Throughout the week, we had a discussion about a lot of issues, how nuclear technologies can help actually human beings to achieve sustainability goals, how to achieve low carbon transition to the next development of our planet. And of course, one of the topics which is extremely important in this context is topic of public acceptance. Unfortunately, despite very clear benefits of nuclear technologies and nuclear energy field is still surrounded by a lot of myths and stereotypes, which definitely prevent people in different countries of the world to clearly understand the benefits which could be realized by implementation of our technologies. And objective of our session of today is to enlarge that awareness and to have a discussion with distinguished speakers who will participate in our session today in online, mostly in online format due to the current COVID situation, how to use different tools, communication tools, social networks, and other approaches in order to achieve the above objectives. Because we truly believe that open communications and delivery of correct information, which is unfortunately is often lacking by the people, will definitely serve this very important goal. As a result, I would suggest to proceed with welcoming words, which will be delivered by Director General of the World Nuclear Association, Sama Bilbao Leon. Sama, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Alexander, and thank you to Rosatom for the opportunity to be here today. It's been a very exciting week where we've been exploring many aspects of nuclear energy and the role of nuclear science and technology. So today, what I was going to do, we have a number of very interesting speakers that are going to discuss many aspects of communication in nuclear. So what I wanted to do is maybe start by putting in perspective not only nuclear energy, but the entire spectrum of technologies that come with nuclear. So, you know, when we consider the clean energy transition, very often the policy discourse focuses almost exclusively on decarbonization. And normally, the concept is that energy is a constraint. In my opinion, we really need to switch this because we really need to look at energy as a driver to affect socio-economic change and to improve the quality of life for people everywhere in the world. People today and for future generations also. So in addressing climate change, there is a very small window of opportunity where we can not only decarbonize the global economy, but at the same time, we can really create a sustainable and more equitable global society. So at the core of this sustainable global community is the provision for a genuinely affordable, clean, on-demand energy system that has as small a footprint as possible. And when I say a footprint, I mean environmental footprint, I mean economic footprint, and social footprint. And of course, I don't have to tell you that nuclear energy is absolutely at the core of this new energy system. And then among all forms forms of energy, electricity perhaps is the most impactful, because it is capable to genuinely empower people at the same time that we protect the environment. So electricity enables healthcare system, universal access to clean water and sanitation and quality education. As you know, there is a direct correlation between electricity access and human development, with increasing use of electricity facilitating better quality of life, and access to low-cost, clean electricity being absolutely essential to reducing socio-economic inequalities. And there is also a solid evidence that the strong connection between electricity access and poverty reduction is very strong, and in particular to the empowerment of and the welfare of women and girls. I mean, and this is a topic that is very, very close to my heart, because electricity absolutely breaks the link between daylight and productive time, and facilitates the use of time and effort-saving devices, allowing women to spend less time in menial chores, and facilitating higher educational attainment, and making them capable to get remunerated work outside of the house. Also, nuclear energy can play a major role in terms of job creation and building a more sustainable and resilient future. So as you know, nuclear energy creates a significant amount of high-skilled, high-paid, and mostly local jobs for an extended period of time, typically 80 to 100 years. And that, of course, includes the construction, operations, and the commissioning. And this, of course, puts nuclear at the heart of the modern industrial strategy. Will provide support for skills development, research and development, and trade and innovation. And of course, investment in nuclear has a very good track record of being a catalyst for industrial and economic growth and prosperity across the world. But as we will see today, the potential of nuclear energy goes far beyond climate change mitigation, because thanks to its unique characteristics and broad applications, nuclear technology can be placed at the center of policies aimed to combating energy poverty and fulfilling all the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And for those of you that are here at Abu Dhabi at the Expo 2020, you will see all over the place there is emphasis in the importance of obtaining these 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So let me start by realizing human potential could be good health, and access to an efficient and affordable healthcare is critical, of course. And unfortunately, as you have seen, the global coronavirus pandemic has focused our attention on public health in an unprecedented fashion. And we have seen in very stark terms highlighted the vast health inequalities that we have seen all over the world, and also inside different countries. So in that sense, access to reliable, round-the-clock and clean electricity plays an important role in strengthening public health, both directly and indirectly. So the provisions of public health goes beyond powering medical facilities. It also includes protecting children's lungs from the known dangers of air pollution. It includes fighting communicable diseases such as sleeping sickness, or non-communicable diseases such as cancer. And it also includes the provision of safe drinking water and combating starvation and food insecurity. So all in all, nuclear energy and nuclear science and technology provides low and middle-income countries the opportunity to fundamentally transform their energy system in a sustainable fashion, allowing them to leapfrog from where they are today to the clean energy systems of the future in a way that they can avoid the mistakes that perhaps high-income countries have done. And as a result, they can also do it having considerable socio-economic benefits that can positively impact every human in the planet. So with this, I'm going to stop here, and I look forward to seeing all the different approaches that all our speakers have to the many ways in which nuclear science and technology are going to improve our lives. Thank you, Alexander.
Thank you, Sama. I think has highlighted extremely important point, the link between technologies related to nuclear field and achievement of sustainability and sustainable development goals identified by United Nations. Having in mind that the challenges which are faced by us clearly have global nature, it is impossible to tackle them without coordination at global level as well. And at international level, the role of coordination for nuclear energy field is carried out by International Atomic Energy Agency. And we have representative of this important organization with us today, Mr. Jeffrey Donovan, who is Communication, Outreach, and Stakeholder Engagement Officer. Recently, EIA has published a guide in relation to how to manage or how just to increase stakeholder engagement through our cycle of nuclear facilities, energy facilities. Jeffrey, could you give us insight what is the focus of this publication and how it can help to build effective relation with the stakeholders and the public?
Great. Thank you very much, Alexander, and thank you to Rosatom for the invitation to participate in this event. To your question, as with any large major project, industrial project, stakeholder engagement is important for nuclear power and all nuclear power projects. Important for their success, and so that's something that the IAEA is hearing more and more from our member states, and that we have supported our member states on for many years. As you mentioned recently, we've come out with a new guide level publication to strengthen this support to our member states. It's the first such guide level publication to support national efforts to engage with stakeholders throughout the life cycle of nuclear facilities. That includes from uranium mining to new and operating reactors, all the way to non-electric applications, waste management, and decommissioning. So this particular publication sort of provides a theoretical and practical guidance on developing and implementing stakeholder engagement programs and activities. As I mentioned, it's the latest in a series that on this topic from the agency. This includes, for example, our milestones approach for countries that are introducing nuclear power. Stakeholder involvement is one of the 19 infrastructure issues that the milestone approach has newcomers addressing. Of course, we're also looking at this topic and working with our member states through other mechanisms such as technical meetings, webinars, and other publications. So, of course, stakeholders come in a variety of shapes and sizes, you could say. Some of them are official authorities, such as the nuclear regulatory body of a country. They are by law required to be involved in projects. Others are simply people or groups that might feel affected by an ongoing activity. So in order to enhance the confidence and trust in a nuclear project, organizations are encouraged to develop and implement a stakeholder engagement program, and by doing so, this enables those individuals, those groups, to become involved, and overall to at least understand the basis for decisions. Of course, as far as this new guide goes, it's meant to assist communications experts, managers, and other people working in a project to establish and maintain their engagement activities and strategies. These people, experts of different levels, work for key organizations involved in the nuclear project, government, including government, the regulator, the owner or the operator of a facility. And so we think that this publication provides solid, basic principle level guidance, and can be used, you know, for organizations, as I mentioned, across the board in nuclear facilities across the life cycle. Thank you.
Jeffrey, of course, everybody knows about great support your organization provides to both newcomer and the countries which have already long-time engagement in nuclear energy field. But of course, this is considered something new development in terms of activities your organization. And I'm sure a lot of listeners and participants of our session of today would be interested to learn a bit more about communication strategy of your organization in terms of dealing with stereotypes and breaking the myths which unfortunately still surround our industry.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, you know, an organization as large as the IAEA is obviously is communicating all the time on many different levels. There's the public information level, and here the IAEA is engaged every day in talking with the public about the basics of nuclear energy, about its clean, reliable, sustainable attributes, and we do this, of course, through a variety of tools, whether they're short videos, social media postings, articles on our website, engagement with the media, and this is something that's aimed, as I said, more directly at the general public. What I would maybe like to focus a little bit more on is the scientific and technical nature of the agency, and the importance of our messages in this area on nuclear energy and on nuclear power. And our messages here are also perfectly valid for the general public, but they're also important for policymakers, for other stakeholders in the energy arena, government, academia, and whatnot. And here, of course, the importance of nuclear power, its role in mitigating climate change, and also in achieving sustainable development, is important for us to highlight through basic technical and scientific information and data. For example, for the recent UN Climate Change Conference held in Glasgow in the UK last November, the IAEA's Department of Nuclear Energy developed a publication called Nuclear Energy for a Net Zero World, and this publication focused on different can help the world not only decarbonize but also achieve sustainable development. It looked at things like, of course, the contribution of nuclear energy to net zero, to the drive for net zero emissions, also from nuclear power's role in moving away from coal, also in a sustainable and a just way for the communities that have long been tied to coal plants or coal production. The publication looked at the natural synergies between nuclear and renewables, and in systems that in the future will also be producing clean hydrogen, and other topics such as nuclear power and its important role in ensuring a resilient energy infrastructure, and also the investments in nuclear power for going forward in hopefully a post-COVID world. But of course, there are many messages, and Sama Bilbao mentioned some of them in terms of the technical messages that underpin that showcase the importance of nuclear power and its role in climate change and sustainable development. From, of course, its zero emissions during operation, and its extremely small environmental footprint, its very low use of rare minerals, and so on. One of the things that we like to highlight is something that Sama Bilbao also mentioned, and that is that the Sustainable Development Goals, of course, are important for all countries, but Sustainable Development Goal number 7 is pretty much recognized as crucial to achieving almost all the other SDGs, from poverty eradication to advancements in health, education, water supply, industrialization, all the way to mitigating climate change. And this is a point that's been recognized by organizations including UNDESA, which is the Secretariat of the SDGs, the International Energy Agency, and the OECD. Other important technical and scientific information that we like to point to in terms of improving understanding of nuclear power, of course, is its low carbon nature. Over the past half century, nuclear power, the use of nuclear power has avoided somewhere in around 75 gigatons of carbon dioxide released into the atmosphere, depending on what technologies would have been deployed if nuclear power plants had not been used. And so this is something that is one of those data points that needs to be repeated and repeated, and that continued avoidance that happens every year is something that is an ongoing contribution of nuclear energy. Of course, the international acknowledgement of nuclear power's role on mitigating climate change and achieving sustainable development also is increasingly recognized, and we've seen this at the IAEA. Even in 2019, we had our first ever international conference on nuclear power and its role on climate change, and it was attended by the heads of all the international organizations that have a responsibility on climate change, starting with the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And of course, the IPCC in its special report in 2018 made it clear that we would need an increase of between 60% and 500% in nuclear capacity by 2050 if we're going to achieve our climate change goals. There's a number of simple but clear scientific data points that, as a technical organization, the IAEA likes to point to in our public communications, that we feel make a very strong case for the role of nuclear power in climate change mitigation and sustainable development. Thank you.
Jeffrey, I would like also to add that your efforts are extremely important, also from the point of view of a high level of credibility of your organization in different countries and in different circles, including policymakers, which you have mentioned. Because if the right policies are not in place, it would be really impossible to realize the objectives of achieving sustainable development. And it's very clear that reliable, uninterrupted, and affordable energy supply basically is the basis for achievement of other goals identified by United Nations. But of course, all of us realize that it's next to impossible to achieve those important goals in one go. It will take time, of course. And that brings to the forefront the role of young generation in achievement of these goals. It has been mentioned by Ms. Tatiana Terentieva at one of inaugural sessions of our thematic week that young generation has to play the key role in realization of our objectives and transition to low carbon world. And this is basically one of the subjects which we have also to keep in mind. And using this opportunity, the opportunity of participation in our session of today of Mr. Christian Vega, who is Vice President of the International Youth Nuclear Association, to address this important topic. Christian, how you would describe the role of nuclear technologies in current energy transition?
Yes, hello everyone, and thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to virtually be with you today. I have a small presentation. Is that possible if I share with you?
It would be a pleasure.
Good, all right, so you should be able to see it now. Yes, I can see you do. All right, so again, thank you very much. And I would like to address your question through this presentation. And, you know, I think that we honestly believe that we are going through very exciting times. You know, 21st century comes with very interesting challenges. We have climate change, of course. You know, the Earth is warming because of human activities, and we have every reason to at least 1 degree Celsius science pre-industrial time, and if we don't reduce emissions, we will probably have between 1.5 to 3 degrees of warming by middle century. Then it's energy demand, which will increase. I mean, everyone deserves the chance to live a healthy and productive life. There's no discussion about it from my standing point. But currently, around 800 million people don't have access to reliable electricity. This means that the global energy demand will go up to 50% by 2050 as low-income countries develop. And if nothing else changes, carbon emissions will go up by nearly as much. We need to get to zero while producing even more energy than we do today. And to be honest, I believe that the world has never done anything quite this big before. Then, of course, we have very interesting challenges and very interesting things happening. We have automatization, deep learning, artificial intelligence, so-called fourth industrial revolution, which is happening already. And of course, it's promising to make our economies more effective and more efficient by creating new opportunities on the process, but at the same time, will take shape, especially in farming and transportation, and that is a challenge we need to face. Then we have new technologies like genome editing, which is a magnificent technology. I don't know if you know about this, but it's promising to cure diseases like cognitive blindness, blindness, which is basically, if you think about it, it's literally a miracle. But at the same time, this will open a whole new world, which basically we don't really know how to deal with this yet. We have blockchain technology, which I believe will be a game changer in the near future and will open economies in the developing world for sure. But overcoming these challenges that humanity is facing require knowledge and innovation, engineering solutions, so we can achieve reliable futures, energy systems, and peaceful adaptation, especially peaceful adaptation to these ongoing changes towards sustainable and inclusive development. So basically, now these world challenges definitely bring opportunities for people with capabilities and skills provided by STEAM educations, and particularly for the nuclear industry. And as you mentioned, the young generation has a very important role to play and needs to be taken into account if you want to, again, go after a sustainable and inclusive development in the future. The nuclear technology has many applications, and I don't have the time to go into each one of them, but from the industry, mining, food preservation, agriculture, medicine, space exploration, and of course, energy production, can be a key for facing our challenges. And this is mainly because currently, the world energy production accounts for, the energy production, and the energy that we produce in the world accounts just for over a quarter of all emissions in the world, while the rest is divided among transportation, agriculture, keeping warm or cold things, and the larger percentage is on production of processes like cement, steel, or plastic. So, however, the energy production does not represent much more of a quarter of, sorry, the energy production does not represent a quarter of the emissions. It does represent much more than a quarter of the solution. With the clean energy and production processes innovation, we could shift away from burning hydrocarbons and thus decarbonizing our economy while creating quality jobs. But in order to do this, we need to attract young professionals to the industry, and we need to face the challenges that the industry itself is facing right now. For instance, among the young professionals that come into the industry, and the World Young Nuclear Thermometer project that we are implementing at IONC will bring real trusted data on this. But in general, there's a lack of misinformation about nuclear technology. Industry is perceived as an old industry and not open to innovation. Uncertainty about the future of nuclear energy or low access to education in developing regions, and we need all ideas to work together. And this is something that we need to work on. That is part of the challenges that we have, and we try to achieve in the nuclear at IONC. At the same time, in the nuclear industry itself, we need to improve communications towards the public. I believe that we have been doing huge improvements in the last years, but there's still a lot of work to be done, to my view. And of course, we still need to keep our safety standards that we can be all proud of, but at the same time, we need to be competitive. We need to go maybe more in standardization of design, business case, avoid delays, etc. And one of the things that we really need to improve from my point of view is more room for innovation, and this innovation applied to the industry. It's interesting how some of the designs that we see now or may see now as innovative, they're actually designs or ideas of concepts from the 70s or the 60s that we're not really able to implement into real life all these years. But there's something that I believe is key, and we believe in IONC is key to tackle these challenges in the future. And let me tell you, there are many aspects that are important, but I will just focus on this one because we believe at it's one of the cores of our organization. And basically, it's diversity. And I'm going to quote the chemistry Nobel laureate Jennifer Doudna, who was awarded in 2020 by, together with Emmanuel Champagnier from France, for their work in the gene editing, the CRISPR method. She literally said that diversity is really important in science. First of all, I think that if you want to have the best scientific outcome, you need a lot of different brains working together on it. We all come to science, or anything really, with different perspectives, skill sets, interests, passions, and way of approaching problems. The more of what we have, the more of that we have, I think the more likely there is to be interesting science that gets done, and frankly, interesting solutions to real problems, which is basically what we need. But before going into how the young generation, how our organizations can support this and provide this, let me in a nutshell describe a little bit of what IONC is. This is a stand for International Youth Nuclear Congress. It's an organization whose mission is to communicate the benefits of nuclear science, applications, and so on, to promote peaceful uses of nuclear technology, provides a platform for networking, and facilitates knowledge transfer between generations across all boundaries. We have different activities, newsletter, mentoring program, the World Young Nuclear Thermometer project, which is one of our main for this term, Nice Future Initiative. You can go to our website and see this. But the way we try to connect this and we try to fulfill our missions is related with the regional and global perspective that we, from the regional and global perspective, we try to, and we strive to encourage and to motivate young professionals and to empower them by learning on the job as well. We try to inspire by peer-to-peer experience share and also knowledge transfer with more senior people, and also peer-to-peer. And we also count with an international innovative context, a mentoring program, a strong grants program to ensure diversity, a bulletin and newsletter, and showcase best practices globally, and many more. But all this diversity should be reflected both in organizations and in all our events, so that the shift of the mindset happens at the young level already. That was what we are attending. One of the ways that we do this, is by having a biannual congress that in the last 20 years we have been doing all around the world. And the next one is going to happen in Russia, in Sochi. We hope to see you all there. We're expecting around 600 to 700 participants. The theme is You Are the Core. You will find all kinds of activities, mentoring programs, cultural tours, technical tours, keynote speakers, section, 10 technical tracks, and so on. And that's all for my presentation. So thank you very much.
I'm sure many people will share and welcome approach which you have identified or mentioned in your presentation, specifically considering current global challenges as opportunities. And of course, it's up to young generation to realize those opportunities, to use them actually for achieving sustainable development goals and realizing energy transition. So could you briefly, just in a few words, to describe which role you see by your association in shifting the mind of the youth in general, young people, let's say, to the mindset which would understand the benefits of nuclear technologies?
Indeed. And that is, as was my presentation, we strive to hear to work for knowledge transfer, to peer-to-peer learning and sharing experiences from learning on the job, and to try to shift mindset to diversity, as we believe is a key aspect to bring all these solutions and discussions. And what I believe is very important is to have the chance to discuss with colleagues and people that are in the same situation from all over the world, and learn from that experience. We really believe at IYNC that that's a way of getting the young into the discussion, getting the young to bring more ideas and to work into innovation and in real problems from a diverse point of view.
Thank you, Christian. Christian mentioned a very important point, that in order to shift the mindset of young people, you should be innovative. There is no way you can do that without introducing some innovative programs. And one of them has been developed by my colleague, CEO of Rosatom Central and South Africa, Ryan Kohler. For 6 years, our office in South Africa, located in South Africa, has conducted a very interesting initiative, which is called Atoms Empowering Africa Video Competition, which engages the young people and is introducing the videos which are done by normal people who do not have any special pre-qualifications in order to express their view about nuclear energy technologies. Up to date, we had already 51 winners, and 1/3 of them had the opportunity to visit Russian nuclear energy facilities. Due to COVID situation, of course, for some time, the visits to Russia have been suspended, but definitely in near future, we are planning to continue that very nice tradition. Ryan, I would like to ask you, what were the original objectives of this competition, and how successfully you were in achieving them?
Thank you very much, Alexander. As you already highlighted, I think nuclear is often very misunderstood and in many regards misrepresented, which is very unfortunate when you consider the immense good that the nuclear industry has already achieved globally. You also noted the project was started in 2015, and the ultimate goal of the project is to motivate the youth to educate themselves, to educate their peers and educate their elders on the benefits of nuclear technologies, and at the same time come up with solutions to help their communities and their countries. Rosatom strongly believes that the youth need to play a vital role in achieving the United Nations sustainability goals, and more specifically, the fight against climate change. Rosatom puts a great deal of resources into supporting the youth to foster their talents and share their views and ideas. We are confident that nuclear can help achieve the UN sustainability goals in Africa, not only through clean and affordable energy, but also through life-saving medical procedures and technologically advanced agricultural practices. Through this competition, the youth are really educating themselves and their peers on the immense benefits of nuclear technology has to offer in both energy and non-energy related fields, and how the nuclear industry is actively involved in solving some of the world's most critical challenges. Finally, they do come to understand the importance of clean and affordable energy in order to achieve Africa's ambitious industrialization and economic goals. I think my favorite aspect of this competition is always the excitement, the reviews, and the emotions of the students who travel to Russia as winners of the competition. Many of them saying that the trip is truly life-changing. Participants become friends within a short period of time and connect for many years after that. These youth rarely get the opportunity to see things from a different perspective and understand how they as African citizens and their communities can benefit from the implementation of nuclear technologies in their countries and in their region. The experience and knowledge that they gain through the trip and the competition as well will benefit them in their future studies. And I must highlight at this point that a number of them who won the competition ended up studying or furthering their studies in Russia. And we really truly hope that it inspires them to make a difference in their communities and on their continent. So on that note, yes, I think to date it has been a success. It's something that we continue to work on. Unfortunately, Corona has limited the travel, which is unfortunate, but we will continue our competition. And all the winners of the past two competitions, as soon as it is safe to travel, will be traveling to Russia. I also want to thank, obviously, African Young Generation in Nuclear and the South African Nuclear Professional Society, who have been instrumental in helping us to promote this competition across the continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan. Greatly appreciated. One famous proverb is saying, it's better one time to see than 100 times to hear. And I would like all our participants to watch a video which has been prepared by a group of Tanzanese students in 2018 and which took the third prize in the competition that year.
Hello, my name is Sophia Yusuf Abeid from St. Joseph University
in Tanzania.
Did you know that there's a very big misconception that sunlight energy is not a nuclear energy? Sunlight energy is formed through a combination of two hydrogen atoms to give a helium atom that provides a tremendous amount of energy that can be useful as a very strong source of energy. Who in Africa benefits from peaceful atom and how? According to the World Nuclear Association, over 15 countries in Africa have nuclear deposits. South Africa, Namibia, and Niger contributing to 18% of the world production. There is a Vec Lab nuclear power that is built in South Africa. South Africa uses nuclear energy to improve exclusive breastfeeding monitoring system. Tanzania is another user of nuclear energy. Tanzania uses nuclear technology to improve livestock productivity, as well as improving rice and barley production through mutation.
The safe and smart use of nuclear science and technology has contributed a lot in solving African problems. Example, in hospital, improve cancer control, radiotherapy to enhance it, improve good health and well-being, which is Sustainable Development Goal number 3. In the agricultural sector, using sterile insect technique, which is essentially a form of contraception that uses radiation to sterilize male insects which are harmful to the crops. How would I explain the benefits of peaceful atom to my fellow Africans?
To solve the challenge of energy in Africa, to access clean, reliable, and affordable energy, also helping the non-electric applications powered by nuclear energy, the present sustainable solution for a number of challenges, example, seawater desalination and district heating. Thank you.
Henceforth, nuclear energy is Africa's
energy future.
We are lucky to have with us today one of the jury members of that important competition. It's the president of the African Youth Generation in Nuclear, Gaupalele Sanswere. JP, I would like to ask you a question. Why, from your point of view, it is important for young professionals to take part in such competitions, and what does it change?
Thank you, Alex. Let me also greet all the panelists there who are there today to share with us this very, very important message. I think one of the things that we have seen as AYGN through this competition is that we've unearthed a lot of talent from the continent. We've seen a lot of interest that comes from young professionals within the continent who have greatly participated on this important competition in the continent. And we've seen also a lot of people having interest now in the nuclear space to understand what is the nuclear science and technology applications and how does it beneficiate Africa. If you've seen from that video from Tanzania, they are not only talking about energy, the production of electricity, they are talking about nuclear medicine, they are talking about agriculture, they are talking about, we're talking about water resource management, we're talking about desalination and so forth. So I think this is one of the creative way of ensuring that nuclear also, as a technology, it can participate with innovative solutions, with innovative and creative ways of ensuring that this proudly continent of ours can beneficiate. We can see that a lot of African countries, they have now appetite. I mean, if they see young people participating in competition, young people asking the right questions about the application of nuclear science and technology, this will also draw more strength to ensure that policymakers also, they can understand that they must include nuclear in their planning, whether in their energy planning, whether in their agriculture and so forth, so that at least the continent can beneficiate. So I would like to say that, look, this was a very, very innovative solution that was brought by Rosatom, and it has created a lot of interest among young professionals in the continent. I mean, when we meet them, they always ask, when is the next competition? Because they want to participate. They want to share their information. They want to share the knowledge. They want to share creative ways of how they see nuclear benefiting this continent. So I think this is a very, very important competition. And as AYGN, we continuously appreciate it and would say that Rosatom, please, don't stop it here, continue doing that. We will seek all others to also to ensure that they can have this type of competition, and then Africa can also rise.
GP, we don't hear you.
GP, you muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're back now.
Oh, yes, I was almost done. Thank you very much, Alex, for the opportunity. Thank you.
GP, thank you very much for your remarks. And it's really very nice to see that in Africa, there are many people, there are many advocates who are engaged in promoting the role of nuclear energy technologies and explaining to different layers of society, and especially to the young people, to whom actually future belongs, the role which they can play in development of their countries by introduction of nuclear technologies and achieving sustainable development goals. And of course, we cannot underestimate the role of communication specialists in that field. And I would like to introduce another participant of our session of today, award-winning communication specialist from Africa, Princess Mtombeni. She's also the founder of Africa for Nuclear and has been for a long time advocate of nuclear energy. Hello, Princey. Princey,
hi, Alexander. Hi.
Do you hear me, Princey? Is it fine?
Yes, I can. Greetings to everyone tuning in.
Very nice. Unfortunately, we are noticing that still the gap between knowledge of nuclear energy benefits and many ordinary people in Africa is still quite wide. From your point of view, what could be and should be done in order to decrease and ideally to eliminate that gap?
Thank you for the question, Alexandra. Once again, greetings to everyone. Thank you, Rosatom, for inviting me to this event. Let me start by saying this quote by a gentleman called Smith. He said, nuclear energy was conceived in secrecy, born in war, and first revealed to the world in horror. No matter how much proponents try to separate the peaceful from the weapons atom, the connection is firmly embedded in the minds of the public. Why I'm giving you this code is because I'm trying to remind every nuclear industry person who's here today how much of a predicament that we find ourselves in. Now, back to the question of how we can address the issue of the gap between the industry and people. Effective communication is key in bridging that gap that still exists between the ordinary public and the industry. Many people still don't know or understand the facts on which optimal energy choices should be based, and therefore cannot make informed decisions on how their nation's economic objectives can be met. As nuclear industry, we are often accused of secrecy and evasion. So the solution to communicate is to communicate in a manner that is simple, candid, consistent, factual, accurate, and credible, and not to mention being proactive as opposed to being reactive. And I'm saying that, am I saying that as the industry we have not been doing that? Absolutely not. And I have to applaud the nuclear advocates in Africa and across the globe for their commitment in pushing the message of nuclear. And what I'm saying actually is that the impact is still minimal. And why is that? And in my view is that many organizations, nuclear organizations, are not treating communication as a strategic activity, but it's more of an afterthought. But I do understand in some cases though. And then back to the solutions, I think that in my view, we need many solutions, and I'm going to mention few. And my suggestions are that we need to intensify our communication strategies. We need outreach programs, and in our outreach programs, especially schools programs, because we need to find the public when they are still, the people when they are still young. And when we go to the schools, I think that for a very long time we've been focusing on maths and science students, and I think it's time that we come up with an inclusive program that will also accommodate other faculties such as art and innovation. And we also need things such as connected TV. I think the pandemic taught us that we need to change our ways of communicating, and especially since we were not able to do the public, the physical interactions. So connected TV is is a television that have access to internet connection and can load or stream digital content, especially with the new normal that we find ourselves in now, which will continue for a very long time. We also have social media, where many young people are at. And then as professionals, we need to constantly engage people on social media platform, even in our own individual capacity. And the use of memes and infographics have become a powerful tool for spreading messages. We've been seeing a lot of memes and infographics or other organizations doing that. And then how about go big or go home type of an initiative? I mean, as the industry, I think it's about time that we come up with a movie focusing on nuclear technology. I have seen about 10 movies that actually drive the renewable energies message. So one way or the other, the nuclear industry needs to launch an aggressive campaign, a communication campaign that will be themed around the fact that nuclear energy is cheap, clean, safe, and is just what Africa needs in order to address issues of energy poverty and to achieve the net zero carbon emissions by 2050. With everything that I have said, it all boils down to resources, both financial and human. Thank you so much.
Prince, could you also give some examples of successful experience in communicating nuclear science and technology in Africa?
Thank you again for the question. I have been driving quite a few initiatives, one of them being the Stand Up for Nuclear South Africa, which is a global event that aims to also advocate for nuclear technology. And in South Africa, we were able to host 3 events at once in different provinces, which actually I believe that has been a success. And also I have seen other countries in Africa joining the Stand Up for Nuclear movement. We saw Nigeria this year, as well as Kenya also joining by also organizing their demonstrations. Secondly, I cannot talk about the success and not speak about Africa for Nuclear, which is the campaign in a form of videos, an initiative that aims to also educate people and the public, specifically young people, about the benefits of nuclear science and technology. And last year, we've managed to release 8 videos, and more videos will be released as of February. And I invite everyone to subscribe to the channel Africa for Nuclear, as well as follow Africa for Nuclear on social media, because actually this year we are planning to go big. And also what I have seen, what are the part of the initiative that I'm leading is a publication called NEO Today, which actually is a publication that target politicians mostly, as well as the industry people, where we also try to write articles and educate people about nuclear science and technology. And lastly, I want to speak about my experience at COP26. I had an opportunity to engage different African leaders from different countries, and also who, for the first time, I believe that they were bold in their communication and taking a stand when it comes to nuclear, because most of them actually did say that they are considering including nuclear as part of their energy mix. So my talk with them was that how we can collaborate in order to help drive the initiative, or maybe give workshops in their countries, especially for young people, to try and push the beautiful message of nuclear. Thank you.
Thank you, Princey. And I think your activities and what you are doing is a live and great example of the important role which women can play in different parts of our world for promoting nuclear, which has been mentioned by Sama in her welcoming speech. And of course, at every step, it's important to have a demonstration of live programs, of live examples of what has been done actually in use of nuclear technologies to improve our lives, to achieve the goals related to environment, social life, global goals. And one of such projects, which is, from my point of view, is extremely interesting, is Rhizotope project, which has been implemented in South Africa. Effectively, it has been created by one of the professors of ITS University in South Africa, with participation of nuclear science, rhino owners, as well as veterinarians of wildlife. The project is aimed at reducing the poaching of the rhinoceros, as many of us know that unfortunately poaching is extremely widespread, and it's not very easy to reduce it by conventional means. It requires a lot of resources by deploying, let's say, people who would stop the poachers. And in the frame of this project, its founders and participants have found a very innovative approach in order to prevent poaching of this very precious and important animal for our wildlife. It's putting the isotopes into the rhino, and as a result, it becomes very easy to control the movement throughout customs. Automatically, it reduces opportunity to take out the product to international markets, and as a result, reducing demand. At the moment, this project has been featured in 2,500 different publications with outreach which equals approximately 1 billion people. I had the chance to talk to its founder, Professor James Larkin, Director of Radiation and Health Physics of WITS University. Unfortunately, he didn't have the opportunity to join us today with our session, but we have been lucky to have the opportunity to record a video with him. And I would like to present this recorded discussion for your attention.
Yes, I'm Professor James Larkin. I'm the director of the Radiation and Health Physics Unit at Wits University. How did I come up with the idea? It's a couple of years ago now. We were having lunch with some friends and we were talking about, you know, the poaching problem in South Africa, and someone piped up and said, "Ooh, why can't you poison them with radioactive material?" And I said, no, because that will, you know, have me put in prison. But it did plant the seed of an idea in my head, because my background is radiation protection and nuclear security education. So it sort of uniquely placed me to think about this project in a slightly different way. And then I realized we could perhaps put a small quantity of radioactive material into the horn of a rhino, which wouldn't harm the rhino, would be just strong enough to be able to set off a radiation detector. Now, around the world, there's something like between 10 and 11,000 installed radiation monitors that have been put at airports and harbors and things like that to prevent the illicit movement of special nuclear material, radioactive material, and things like that, as a sort of prevention for terrorists and people like that to handle and smuggle radioactive material. And I realized that we could use the same system to prevent the smuggling of rhino horn if they carry this small quantity of radioactive material in it. So from there, you know, working on the idea, I talked to a number of different colleagues around the world, and you know, carried on talking, and eventually started talking to, and now people who are now part of the project was people at Colorado State University in America, ANSTO, which is the Australian Nuclear Science and Technology Organization, and more recently YAFI, a Russian organization, have actually come on board. And this was all through the kind of good offices of Rosatom, because when I put this whole idea together, I thought, well, we're going to need to sort of get some assistance from other organizations, because quite clearly this is not something that's going to come from my own budget, which is very small at the university. So I approached Rosatom Central and Southern Africa because I knew the CEO at the time, Ryan Collier, and I spoke to Ryan and said, "What do you think of this idea?" And he's a good South African lad, and he said, "Let me think about it and let me take this to my colleagues in Russia." And so he took this idea to his colleagues in Russia, and lo and behold, they came back and said, "Yes, we would love to be involved in this project. We would love to, you know, offer some technical assistance, but more importantly, but as importantly, we would be happy to fund the initial part of the research." So, you know, I went away a very happy man, but suddenly realized this idea had gone from being on a piece of paper to being a viable project. And so we established and set up the project at the beginning of last year. And we realized very quickly that there's not an awful lot known about, you know, the physiology and the anatomy of the rhino horn. So we said, well, let's go right back to the beginning and actually do our homework, because it's going to be very important. We can come up with the best idea in the world, but if the rhino owners and the stakeholders and the welfare of the rhinos isn't convinced by what we're doing, they're not going to accept the idea. So we started with what we call phase one, which was to be able to put some stable radioisotopes into the horns of two animals. So I'll explain and tell you about these animals a little bit more just now. To make sure that anything we put into the horn of an animal stays there, because there have been claims from other people that we can inject stuff into the horn and it will spread through the horn. we weren't certain about that. So we said, well, let's start from the beginning, do our homework, and let's make sure whatever we do, we can sort of prove to rhino owners and things like that what we claim is the truth, because we have the evidence for it. Now, we were extraordinarily lucky that there's a game farm in the Eastern Cape called Buffalo Kloof, where people are open to this type of idea, the Rippons, extraordinarily open to this idea. And so I had a couple of conversations with them, and they agreed to make 2 rhino available to us, which was, you know, almost unprecedented in many ways, because they are valuable animals. But I don't, if you've seen the pictures of Igor and Denver, who are our 2 test subjects, you'll realize these are really magnificent specimens of the white rhino. You know, they're big and going to get bigger, believe it or not. Igor is, I'm not quite sure how heavy he is, but he's quite likely to get up to weighing about 3 metric tons, so that's 3,000 kilograms. So to be able to work with these animals, it's not just one man and his dog sort of thing. You need a whole team to be able to work with them, to be able to immobilize, to sort of, so you can actually do the work. And you'll see in the video when we have a look at it just now, that there's this massive team of people who are necessary to be able for us to do this work. So we are very unconventional in many ways as the type of research work that we're doing at the university with the assistance of all the international and national assistants, because normally this type of work happens in a laboratory and, you know, there's 2 or 3 people involved, but you realize when you want to go and immobilize a rhino, you need this massive team. And it's been extraordinary that the assistance that people like Buffalo Kloof have given to us, and how open and interested they are in what we're doing and how they want to support us going forward. I should also mention that, you know, not only have we got international assistance, we have national assistance from the Nuclear Energy Corporation of South Africa as well, who are, again, very enthusiastic. And this is one of the things I found over this last year as we've been setting up and running this whole project, is the willingness of a very diverse group of people to be involved in this thing. I'm talking to Sergey at Yaffe a couple of days ago, and, you know, he's sitting there listening to what I'm saying, and then he's going, ooh, my colleagues think I'm mad for being involved in this, but this is just really interesting. And I think all of my scientific colleagues and, you know, friends and colleagues who are talking about this, we're coming to this project, and the willingness to say and put their hand up and say, yes, no, we'll help, which has been fantastic. So it's heartwarming. It's, you know, academically interesting. It's very important. But the whole, you know, just people have said, yes, we will help, bringing their unique set of skills, because this is one of the things is, and this is not a traditional conservation type project. We're coming from nuclear science, and we're offering and developing a whole new way of trying to prevent the trafficking and the poaching of these animals, because they're beautiful animals, and, you know, they are endangered now. So we've got to find ways to try and prevent the trafficking and the poaching of these animals. And, you know, this international collaboration that's backed by Rosatom continues to be an exciting project that in equal parts excites me and scares me, I suppose, because it's people talk about passion projects and things like that. This is more than that. And this is something that's very, very meaningful to me and everybody else who's involved in it. So we're going to show you a video, which is a kind of summary of what we've done this year. You'll see in it not only is there rhino work, but there is, as importantly, there is a social upliftment element, which again, Rosatom has worked with us on this, because we recognize that to further protect these animals, you need to have the involvement of the community, of the school children, of the people living around it. So there's some lovely shots there of an aquaponics unit, which is a nice little system that allows people to grow vegetables, to grow protein, so fish protein, in a beautiful little setup. It's a very elegant system. And what's particularly pleasing with this, we set it up it was set running in November. It's already producing food for orphanages, for a soup kitchen, and it's run by volunteers. So, you know, that in itself is something that we're very proud of. Also, we've been able to go and meet schools, a couple of schools. We've been to see some in the Eastern Cape, and just recently we've done the launch of what we call the DigiPals at St. Stithians in Johannesburg. So there is this whole other aspect to the Rhizotope project. So it keeps us busy, keeps us enthusiastic, and the opportunity to be actually go and be able to try and do something about these beautiful animals is what gets us out of bed every morning. So please enjoy the video. And if you've got any questions, my colleagues at Rosatom, I'm sure, will then direct them to me.
I think it's a great example of project which combines innovative thinking, nuclear science and technology, and use of existing radiation control infrastructure, which is present in many countries of the world. Taking opportunity of participation in our session of today of Ryan, I would like to ask you, Professor Larkin mentioned that your office has been engaged in implementation of this project. So what was objective of Rosatom in taking part in this important project in saving very beautiful but endangered animal in South Africa? And why have you decided to join hands?
Thank you very much, Alex. So firstly, I mean, the plight of the African rhino is a very serious one. And it's a problem that's been around for a very long time. I think every single South African to one degree or another understands the problem. Sadly, we're now at a point where there are only 16,000 rhino left in South Africa, and that's the largest population left in the world. So I think that for me and for very many others, this is the realization that we're at a critical point. and we clearly haven't done enough. And now we need to do a lot, and we need to take drastic measures to save them. And that's really how the idea of this project came about. Basically, we're trying to save a magical and endangered species. I mean, if you look at the Rhinoceros, it really is a real life living unicorn. Unfortunately, because people believe that their horn is also magical, they will not be around for much longer. So really what we're trying to do is use science, and particularly nuclear science, to prevent this endangered species from being wiped off the face of the planet. So that our kids and their kids, and hopefully their kids, will be able to appreciate them just like we have. So Rosatom Seed funded the project to get it off the ground, to get it going, and we continue to support the project financially. But we're also helping with scientific expertise from Russia and from various of our institutions. So we're really just trying to help where help is needed in terms of this project. It's a very personal project for me. Obviously, as a South African, Professor Larkin and I have known each other for a number of years, and we've been working on many different nuclear and educational projects in South Africa and in Africa. When he approached me with this project, it was something incredibly exciting for me. Being a South African, trying to save this magical species is obviously something very near and dear to me. Utilizing the industry and the company that I work for and using yet another innovative nuclear technique to do it just made it all that more special. So everything that I can do from my side in terms of helping this project move forward here in South Africa and on behalf of Rosatom, we do. And really, we're just trying to make people aware of this problem globally. We're trying to raise extra funds, not only internally, but also from various other large organizations to make this fantastic project a success. So really, I mean, Rosatom aims to support this project where and how we can, but we do need extra assistance. So if anyone is interested in supporting the Rhizotope project, please do get in touch with myself or with Professor Lark. Again, yeah, it's just a very special project, and we'd like to get as many different organizations and people on board as possible. Thank you very much for the opportunity to discuss it.
Thank you, Ryan. I wish you further successes in implementation, in continuation of successful implementation of this project, and I'm sure in the future we will have other innovative approaches from your side, how to promote or how to use, let's say, latest achievements of nuclear technologies in saving wildlife and also in improving economic life of people in your country. We have talked today already about the role of future generation, but point of view, nuclear education or education about nuclear benefits should start at quite early age, and at this stage, very important role is played by the parents, who are actually guiding our minds when we are still children to the future. As a result, it is important to see wisdom which is shared by the parents to the children in all the aspects, including energy transition. And I'm very pleased to introduce another participant of our session of today, one of the co-founders of Mothers for Nuclear. It's Heather Hoff. We know that it is very late already in California. It's not unlike there is great time difference between Dubai and California. But still, we will really appreciate you sharing thoughts and ideas, what challenges you face in promoting nuclear, and what new challenges have been brought up by COVID situation.
Thank you so much, and I'm so happy to be here with all of you, and especially Princess. We talked a lot about diversity, and there's not very many females and very many women and mothers in our field, and I feel like it's especially important for us to speak out and try and connect with other women who might be nervous about nuclear. And that's what we do at Mothers for Nuclear. We're trying to communicate differently. And we're not communicators, and maybe that's why sometimes we notice things about how our industry communicates that we want to do differently. And I work at a nuclear plant at Diablo Canyon in California here, and yes, it's 1 a.m., but I'm still very happy to be here with you all. And yeah, so after working at Diablo Canyon, I noticed a number of things about nuclear and how we talk about it. We tend to deny that it's scary. I think it's kind of important to acknowledge that nuclear is scary, and that's not the same as dangerous. But you know, lots of people that don't know about the technology really want, I think, crave hearing from someone who's real and empathetic and understands those fears. I used to be scared of nuclear before I started working at Diablo, and it took me about 6 years to change my mind, and even longer after that to decide that I wanted to speak out about it and do nuclear advocacy. And so what we aim to do at Mothers for Nuclear is talk about the technology differently, and try and help other mothers and women feel comfortable that they can change their minds too if they're nervous or skeptical. They should ask lots of questions, and we hope to be a resource for anyone who has questions about nuclear. And another thing I wanted to say is there are so many issues, as so many people here on this panel have brought up, concerning nuclear, and I just feel that every voice is important, every different angle that we can talk about nuclear, every different project, from saving rhinos to bringing young people on board, every angle matters. And I'm really excited to be here and hear from all of you and hear what you're doing as well.
I'm sure it's impossible to underestimate the role of mothers. It is the first word which child says when he learns to speak. Could you share the story which affected you most?
I have a really interesting story about a classroom actually that was studying nuclear energy, and they invited us in to speak to their class. They had a big unit about nuclear with you know, pro supportive people coming in and also anti people coming in and talking about nuclear. And at the end of the unit in the classroom, all the students had to get up in a big circle, which, you know, in some high schools, that might be your nightmare, you know, getting in a circle and like going into the middle in front of everyone and talking about what you learned. And so this girl goes into the circle, and she has her sweater off her shoulder and the feather earrings, and she's kind of a hippie, and we're worried, you know, like, oh my gosh, she's just gonna hate nuclear, and so we probably did absolutely no good. But she went in there in front of all of her peers and said, you know, when those women came in here and talked about how they changed their minds, that made me feel comfortable that I could change my mind. And so that's what we hope to demonstrate. It was just a beautiful moment to witness, you know, someone that had been so skeptical, just seeing someone else change their mind helped them be open to it. And so I hope to share that with future generations. And the reason, you know, we're Mothers for Nuclear is we do care about the next generation. We want to share with them the technology that can improve lives and communicate differently about it so that they can feel comfortable as well.
Thank you, Heather. Your example is really inspiring, and I'm sure many other women and mothers will join hands with you in the future.
Thanks.
Throughout our thematic week, we have talked a lot about benefits, advantages, which could be brought up by nuclear technologies to different people across the world. But of course, summarizing all this, what we have discussed and said, it's really could be said into words. We would like to see the people living in the better world. And for that, definitely, we would like to deploy nuclear technologies, nuclear energy in order to achieve a realization of sustainable development goals. In 2020, in order to create greater awareness how actually our projects, Rosatom projects, and nuclear energy technologies change the life of people who are living next to nuclear power plants, who are working very often, as Heather does, for example, in nuclear power plants. We have started the program Atoms for Humanity. And the program is aimed at capturing real-life experiences of people in different countries, countries like Finlandia, Egypt, Turkey, Belarus, Russia, and sharing those examples with different people across the world. And we would like to present to you today one of examples, life-changing examples related to Hungary, of Balint Vince, who is typographer at Paks, where Rosatom is currently implements NPP project. And after you watch the video, I would be pleased to ask several questions to Balint.
I have a dream that those visions of nature that I have been capturing in photographs for 15 years now will reach future generations not only as images, but as everyday reality. I have been working at Hungary's Paks nuclear power plant for over 30 years now. During my first 20 years here, I worked in design and prepared and printed publications. Over time, I began photographing nature, something I have been doing for 15 years now. My photographs are used in publications and other materials about the NPP. Many people see a nuclear power plant as something incomprehensible, even a bit mystical. They have a poor understanding about the actual state of the wildlife and flora surrounding the plant. Through my photographs, I want to show people just how lush and pristine the wildlife in nature really is here. Don't take my word for it. This has been confirmed by numerous experts and environmentalists. This is why I have always prioritized studying nature and wildlife in depth, to be sure that my photographs depict the truth. Whenever I finish a photo project, I always show my work to other people. I am a very lucky man. I have had the chance to speak at the Museum of Atomic Energy and at various forums to tell people about my projects and show my photographs to young people. It is so gratifying to see people taking a genuine interest in my work. But the first people to see my new photographs are those who work at the NPP. They are the ones who help me the most in my endeavors.
legnagyobb siker számomra.
The biggest sign of success is seeing how happy people are when they look at my pictures. And if my photos make them reflect about something and smile, this signals to me that I was able to stir their interest in nature and encourage them to think about our collective responsibility to preserve it. When this happens, I feel that the time I invested in taking these photographs was well spent.
The video looks really inspiring, and I think it's high time for us to talk to the hero of this video. Balint, are you with us?
Hello.
Do you hear us?
Yes, ez nincs bekapcsolva.
Balint, today we are talking about new perception or creation of new perception about nuclear technologies and using different channels to achieve it. With greater penetration of digital technologies into our life, it's very clear that our perception or perception of especially new generation tends to be more visual than text-based, as it used to be before. So in this view, of course, the way which has been chosen by you, portray of nature around nuclear power plants, which definitely serves to disperse one of the myths surrounding nuclear energy, that nuclear power plant is damaging to the environment, is extremely important. I think it also goes to the same direction which has been mentioned by Princey, that we need to create more visual and video content about the benefits of nuclear energy and nuclear power plant. So in this regard, I would like to ask you a question. How have you come up with idea to use photography for promotion of nuclear technologies?
Először is köszöntök mindenkit, és megtiszteltetés ezen a konferencián részt venni.
First of all, I'd like to welcome everyone, and I appreciate very much being able to participate in this conference.
És akkor a kérdésre a válasz, hát hosszú lenne, és kevés az idő, de megpróbálom egy kicsit minél rövidebbre fogni.
Now answering the question, it would be really time consuming, and our time is limited, but I will try to sum up briefly.
15 éve kezdődött körülbelül a dolog, mint grafikus. Tanultam a fotózást, és nem volt számomra idegen, többnyire a családot, kirándulásokat fényképeztem, de kaptam egy megbízást, hogy az atomerőmű horgásztavain készítsek egy fotósorozatot, és abból készítsek egy albumot.
It started long time ago, some 15 years ago. As a graphic, I studied also photography, but at the beginning I photographed only my family and our excursions. But then I had the opportunity to make an album of the fishing ponds next to the nuclear power plant.
Nem volt ismeretlen a táj, hiszen én is jártam, aktív horgász voltam annak idején, viszont mégis az album fotójának készítése közben többeneten láttam, hogy milyen gazdag a élővilág veszi körül az atomerőmű közvetlen és közvetett környezetét.
Fishing was not a novelty for me, since I myself used to go for fishing for a longer time. Still, I was very much surprised seeing how rich flora and fauna surrounds the vicinity and surroundings of the nuclear power plant.
Úgyhogy adott a tény, elhatároztam, hogy ezt a csodát másoknak is megmutatom.
So I decided that I have to show this miracle to other people as well.
Nagyon szerencsésnek mondhatom magam, hisz az atomerőmű technikai feltételeket és minden munkatársa a legnagyobb segítséget megadja ehhez a munkához.
I'm really lucky since the nuclear power plant provides to me all the technical conditions necessary, and also the staff of the nuclear power plant promotes my everyday activity.
Amit hát nem munkaidőben, hanem a szabadidőm teljes felhasználásával immár 15 éve folytatom.
And I do it not within the working hours, but in my leisure time for over 15 years.
Ezek a felvételek és munkáim fontos kiegészítői az atomerőmű kommunikációs gyakorlatának.
These are photos and my work are important addition to the communication work of the nuclear power plant.
Tökéletesen és hitelesen illusztrálják, hogy az atomenergia békében él a környezetében.
And they do illustrate in a perfect manner how friendly can coexist the nuclear power plant and the nature.
Sőt, nem egyszer maguk a szakemberek, természetügyi szakemberek és biológusok is meglepődnek a képek láttán.
And it often happens that even experts, biologists and other scientific people are surprised when they see my photos.
De hát a fotók nem hazudnak.
But the photographs do not lie.
Köszönöm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Balint. And we are looking forward to seeing many more beautiful photos of yours. Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Hát az első időben többnyire az atomerőmű és annak környezetében mutattam be munkatársaimnak a képeimet, majd 4 évi munka után elkészítettem első albumomat, a Genuint, ami egy latin szó, eredeti, hiteles, hamisítatlan. Ez egyben az én hitvallásom is.
And at the beginning, I showed my photos, my pictures, only to the people working at the nuclear power plant. But after some 4 years of work, I finished my first album, the Genuine. This is a word of Latin origin, and it means original, Guinea.
Amúgy ezek a fotók a Rosatom jó voltából már bejárták az egész világot.
And my photos, thanks to promotion of Rosatom, were exhibited all around the world already.
De az első nagy bemutatkozásom a Bécsi NAU központban volt, majd ezt külföldi és magyar kiállítások sora követte, és mindig visszahallom gyakran, hogy megdöbbennek a képek láttán, ők nem is gondolták volna, hogy ilyen gazdag az élővilág egy atomerőmű környezetében.
My first great or big international showcase was held in Vienna at the IEA headquarters, after what a whole series of exhibitions in Hungary and abroad took place. And very often the people are really wondering at the pictures. They cannot even imagine that there can be such a wildlife around the nuclear power plants.
Ezek a felvételek, illetve a munkám, vagy munkánk, mert közös, hiszen az atomerőmű minden dolgozója részt vesz benne, én csak az exponáló gombot nyomom meg a végén. Felkeltették a Rosenergo atom érdeklődését is, és felkértek, hogy az oroszországi atomerőművek környezetét is járjam körül, és hasonló módon nézem meg ott, milyen a természet.
And these works of mine, better to say ours, since all the employees of the power plant help a lot. I make only the click at the end when making the photos. And the Russian Rosatom company also became interested in these photos, and they grant me a possibility to take photos around the Russian nuclear power plants, and that lasted for about 2 years.
Természetesen ezek az atomerőművek is ugyanazt az üzenetet hordozták, amit az első könyvemben már bemutattam az atomerőművekről.
Obviously, these photos made around the nuclear power plants had the same message as my first album, made from photos from around the Hungarian power plant.
A következő projektem a gyerekeknek szóló, hát mondhatjuk úgy, a természetes szeretetre, a természettudatosságra és a környezetük bemutatására épülő egy űrgemese könyv elkészítése volt, ahol nem csak a képeket, hanem magát a verseket is írtam.
My next project was a book for the younger generation, for children to whom I wanted to introduce the nature, to make them love the nature. That was the so-called Gopher Tale, which contained not only photos, but also poems wrote by me.
Nagyon fontosnak tartom, és nagyon élvezem, amikor fiatal gyerekeknek adhatom át a megszerzett tapasztalatokat és tudást, és ennek egyik formája már 5 éve nemzetközi tábor, amit közösen szervezünk orosz és magyar kollégáimmal, akik egy természetfotós táborban vesznek részt évente.
For me, it's very important to transfer the gained by me experiences to the younger generation, and thus for over 5 years, we are continuously organizing international nature photography camps with the assistance of the Russian party, and they are held in many countries, and we are going to expand to other regions.
Bár egyre bővül ennek a tábornak a résztvevő gyerekek országok névsora, Fehér Oroszország, Oroszország, Magyarország, Finnország, azért szeretném ezt egy nagyobb körre kiterjeszteni.
And though there are participants from increasing number of countries, like from Belarus, from Russia, Finland, and Hungary, but I would like to develop it further and involve other regions as well.
Maga a természetfotó, mint emocionális üzenet kiegészítője azoknak az erőmű működése és támogatottsága melletti táblázatok, műszaki adatok, érveléseknek, amely eredményessé teheti a kommunikációt.
Photographing nature is just an addition to those messages. These are an important addition to the tables and numerical arguments in favor of the nuclear power plant, and I do hope that by means of that we can achieve much greater acceptance, stronger environmental awareness.
Különösen azért eredményes, mert azok az emberek vesznek részt ezekben a projektekben, és azokat a felvételeket látják, amiket, ha igaz, nem a természetfotós személyével, de saját maguk is a mindennapjaikban megtapasztalhatnak.
And the impact of these photos is very important, because most of the people who look at my photos can remember that they saw actually the same environment, the same animals, even if not as a photographer.
És végezetül engedjenek meg az első nagy nemzetközi kiállításomról egy utolsó gondolatot.
And finally, let me just a thought in connection with my latest international exhibition.
Amikor a bécsi Nausz székházban 1912-ben először léptem úgymond porondra a képekkel, Nem tagadom, komoly szorongás és félelem fogott el a fogadtatást illetően.
When there was my first international exhibition in 2012 in Vienna at the IEA headquarters, I have to admit that I was strongly afraid concerning the acceptance of my works.
Különösen azért, mert kedves barátom, egyik nagy szakértő, ott megjegyezte, hogy tudtával én vagyok az első a világon, aki ilyen szemmel is láthatja a mi atomvilágunkat.
However, there was a friend of mine, an IEA expert, and he noted that according to his knowledge, I'm the first person around the world who sees the atomic world with such an eye.
De nincs mitől tartanod, hisz az igazat mondod.
And he added that I shouldn't be afraid because I'm telling the truth.
És ennek örülök a leginkább, hogy egyre többen követnek, és elsősorban fiatalok, akik hasonló módon a saját környezetükben, az atomerőmű környékén élve természetfotós szemmel vizsgálják és élvezik a környezetüket.
And I'm very glad that more and more people, especially the younger generation, is more and more interested in the nature photography and look at the things around the power plant with the eyes of a photographer.
De még sok ötletem van.
But I still have a lot of ideas.
Az maradjon későbbre. Köszönöm szépen.
But that will be for the future. Thank you very much.
Balet, I think your photography belongs to the art actually, which at the same time sends very important message that nuclear doesn't damage the environment. And this is not by chance it attracts so much attention both from international organizations, Rosatom, and ordinary people. And I'm sure that success story will continue in the future as well. Thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you.
Instead of closing remarks, I would like to invite to the stage again Sama in order to ask her last conclusive question. Our session of today is really demonstration of the challenges which are brought in front of communications by COVID era. In the room, we are actually two speakers. Okay, 1.5, I moderate. So. And we have 10 people participating online. So, from your point of view, could you tell us, does COVID and those challenges bring more bad or good for nuclear communications? What is your opinion?
Well, I think that's a very difficult question. I think I have mixed opinion here. So on the one hand, I think that this revolution that we have experienced in the last couple of years of the virtual communications has been very helpful for us to be able to reach to more and more people, people that normally would not have been able to, or maybe would not have been interested in learning about nuclear, that they would not have had easy access by our messages. So in that sense, the breadth of communication has increased, so we have been able to reach many, many more people. But at the same time, I think that virtual communications have something missing. I think that we just heard in all the stories that we have, you have shared today, that is so important, the human connection, the emotional connection, the one-to-one connection. I mean, and we have seen this in all the stories that we have presented today, whether it is the dimension of, you know, like the young generation, or the dimension of mothers, or the dimension of African points of view, or the super interesting point of view of the saving rhinoceros. So I think that all those things, you cannot really appreciate them as well through virtual networking. So in that sense, I think that the one-on-one communications are very, very important. So, I mean, but I think that the nuclear community has learned, or is learning. We have much to learn yet, but I think that we are learning quite a bit from many years of maybe not so good communications. We have seen now very good examples of much, much better approach to explaining what we do in nuclear. It's not just about passing information. It's about making a human connection. It's about telling a story. It's about having a shared connection that is much more than just explaining a bunch of information. So in that sense, I think that we are getting a little bit better.
As I understood, it's really important to reintroduce to some extent, or to find new innovative ways.
Absolutely.
How to return to personal and emotional communications, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and the other thing that I wanted to emphasize is it's not just the information itself, is, as you said, the emotional connection and the images. And in that sense, our last example with all the beautiful photography also is quite important to associate new imagery, new points of view with nuclear science and technology and nuclear energy in general. Thank you.
I really appreciate it. All of us know that it's not easy to change the mind of a human being. Even in our daily life, we face a situation when to convince somebody about doing some simple thing takes time and effort. And what to say about the topics which are often surrounded, as we mentioned before, by some myths, stereotypes, some urban stories, and so on, which is related exactly to nuclear energy communications. Albert Einstein once said that it's easier to crack the atom than the prejudice. But at the same time, there is no other way, and Sama just mentioned that, than talking to people in different ways, constantly finding new innovative approaches which would touch the emotional side, which would create reaction and positive change in their mindset to such an important topic as nuclear energy development. So I would like to thank everybody who took part in our session of today. I hope it was informative and very useful for everybody, both on the speaker's side and on the participant side. So I hope also everybody enjoyed it as well. And at the end, I would like to mention that after the end of our session, I invite everybody to watch a brief video, which is the virtual tour of machinery manufacturing plant of MSZ. And it would be possible for you to have different components of the plant, which also will provide you with useful information about this facility. So please stay connected, and I invite everybody to watch the video.